Here. Here.
Here. Here.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can certainly do that. And I will even activate my video. There we go. The necessity, we have a design agreement pending with the Corps for a 2-year design on the project. It has been through the attorney's review. Glenn was able to briefly look at it before he left. We've had the attorney review come back today, and he indicated that it was okay to sign. And yes, it is a formality that we need to have on the books for Glenn to be able to sign the agreement so we can move forward with the Corps on the design phase. You bet.
I have a question. Yeah, so I understand that it's procedural and it's no big deal and all that kind of stuff. The thing that wasn't answered is it time sensitive that we have to do it tonight as opposed to noticing it and having it at a meeting where everybody's informed in advance?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it is time sensitive. Councilman Brown, it has been under review for the last few weeks. The Corps has been waiting to get their funds in order to initiate the execution of the agreement, and they are behind schedule on activating the design phase. And we do have the funds set aside in a grant agreement to cover this.
Yes.
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 Mr. Hanlon, that is a correct statement. The school board is also elected by seat letter.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
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 I just want to give props to Brian for making me look up the word elucidated, so I knew what that actually meant. Yes.
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 I move to accept the senior property tax exemption forms as timely filed.
Second.
This is, I just have a quick question. There was an indication that somebody may not maintain a full-time residence there in Nome. I was just curious, is that a prerequisite for being eligible for this tax exemption? Okay, that's what I wasn't sure if we needed to eliminate somebody from this list or what, if that was actually doing that. And thank you so much for reaching out to these people and asking them to get their paperwork turned in. I'm sure they appreciate it.
Yes.
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 Yes. Mr. Hanlon, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. Okay, well, I will move to approve ordinance number 210301, bow-legged S.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yeah, I have a couple of really minor questions. Okay, in section 4C, second to the last line, it says 36th day. Everywhere else, it mentions 35th day. I'm just wondering if that's a typo or what the reason is for having a lag day in there. And then the more substantive question on the last line of E in that same section says for a period of 90 days. And I'm just wondering if the 90 days is just what the planning commission had recommended, or if that's what the attorney suggested should be the length of time. and what would be the ramifications of making it 180 days instead? Okay, thanks. I'm interested if anyone else on the council would be in favor of extending that to 180 days. And actually, I'll make a motion to amend to extend that to 180 days instead of 90.
Second.
Second,
Can I just ask Gerald why he thinks 180, just out of curiosity?
Just to give people time to either come back from vacation, or maybe we have the bid sale in the middle of the winter for whatever reason, and then people don't learn about it for 91 days or whatever. It's just to extend a little more time. I mean, my personal preference would be to have just a standing list of properties that the city is willing to dispose of, and here's what the prices are, and it just goes on until such time as they're sold, or the council rescinds the individual property being for sale. But I'd see this as somewhere in the middle of those two, and just make it 180 days, 6 months.
Thank you.
Technician originally was supposed to have been up here this week, but was rescheduled to April 9. And so they were to finish a couple of those last minute deals, and the TV audio I know is one of them.
I think I addressed it.
Okay.
So getting back to Gerald's amendment motion, the idea is basically to put these properties out to the public that the city doesn't necessarily need and to make them available for development and put on the tax rolls, so. Barring not making them available forever, 180 days, I would think would be pretty reasonable.
Okay, if there's not further comments, a roll call please on the proposed amendment in the last line, changing 90 to 180.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Topcock.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Yes.
Motion to amend carries.
Thank you. Then moving on to new business, item C.
Original motion.
Oh, thank you, sorry. Yeah, the motion, the deal as amended, number 210301. Any further amendments? If not, a roll call, please, on the adoption of that ordinance as amended.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Topcock.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Motion as amended carries.
Thank you. Then moving on to new business, item C, this resolution 210305. Mr. Clerk?
R210305, a resolution approving a contract with Altman Rogers and Company for audit services for the fiscal year 2021.
Thank you. The memo of the finance director is self-sufficient or self-explanatory, I think. Are there any questions? Nikki is on the line.
This is Jennifer. I thought we were gonna bid this out the last couple of years. I think we've had this discussion, but I haven't seen anything come back as far as bidding out this service.
I don't remember which report it was in, just maybe the last city manager report. I think alerted us to this being coming, that he hadn't managed to get that out the door, and wanted to continue with this for one more year, and but did intend to put it out. So I guess I had seen some note on this before. I think it was in a manager report. Any other questions?
Make a motion to adopt resolution R210305.
Thank you. Councilmember Mark Johnson, Councilmember Doug Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please on its adoption.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Topcock.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Then moving on to utility manager.
Hello, Ken Morton on behalf of Nome Utilities. Starting on the power generation front, our spill prevention contingency plan expires this year. So we're working on the update, a pre-application meeting with DEC last week. The fuel purchase, we locked into 1.6 million gallons. Took advantage of an option with Crowley as part of what our contract allows. Concerned about the volatility in the market and feel that the price that we locked in at is a good price. On the line crew side, there's been a fair amount of coordination with various folks planning improvements this summer. Making sure we get our transformers ordered, poles ordered, and trying to line things out. We did issue a purchase order to Eaton to start the replacement of our electric meter management system, and we have our kickoff meeting tomorrow morning. Perry Sato took off, I think today, for his first stint at lineman school. He'll be back in May. On the water sewer front, our foreman, Calvin Ojanen, has resigned. We will miss him and we wish him well. Jerry West was promoted into the foreman role, and now we are advertising to fill a position in the water sewer department as an operator. So if you know anybody that might be a good fit, should have them give us a jingle and give us an application. And a related note to that, we are researching opportunities to have someone come up to perform CDL road tests. Any questions on this or anything else going on? Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, please.
did we miss doing the resolution that we added for the port thing? Or was that under a different?
Yes, we did. Okay, before we move on to the city manager's report, then we'll add that resolution. Ryan, do you have it?
It was.
Okay.
Somebody should, since nobody has it, somebody should probably read it even though it's.
Would you like me to read the entirety into the record?
How about you read the be it resolved?
Okay, so the resolution, I'll read the title and then the be it resolved. A resolution, R210306, a resolution authorizing the City of Nome to enter into a cost share agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the design and general navigation features, for the design of the general navigation features for the Port of Nome navigation improvements. Now therefore be it resolved that the Nome Common Council hereby authorizes the city manager to enter into a cost share agreement with the USACE for the completion of the pre-construction, engineering, and design for the Port of Nome navigation improvements.
Thank you. The port director is still on the line, I believe. And Joy, would you mind just giving a little synopsis of the financial side of this? Our money's coming from where, and how much is it matching?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to. The project design phase is for the general navigation features, which are the federal responsibility, of which under design we have a 25% responsibility, and they are paying 75%. The total design costs are $3.6 million. So the Corps has 2.7, and which they just received a couple of weeks ago. And the city's responsibility is $900,000, which Nikki and I have set aside and tagged in a grant and in discussions with Glenn. And for this time in which we would sign this agreement with the Corps, this is supposed to be a 2-year agreement. The Corps is hoping that they could cut a few months off of that, but we're continuing to lose time, so it may end up just being a 2-year agreement. March, April of 23, but we are excited to be moving forward. After this design is complete, it's authorization for the appropriation of funding, and then we're in construction.
Thank you, Joy. On this, too, the Corps is anxious to get moving on this, but there was just a little bit of a problem with them coming up with their money. And we'd like to thank our good senators, Sullivan and Murkowski and Congressman Young, for encouraging them to dig in the couch cushions and found the money so this can move forward. So certainly want to acknowledge the assistance of our good congressional delegation. Are there any questions further, or are we ready for a vote?
I'll make a motion to approve, is it approve or adopt R 210306.
Second. Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Mark Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Doug Johnson to adopt the resolution. Is there further discussion or discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Councilmember Brown?
The $900,000, you mentioned something about a grant. Is this 900,000 coming from a grant outside this?
It was part of a state legislative grant to the city.
Okay, so it's not tax dollars that are being appropriated for this purpose.
No, this was a state grant that was being joy carved off and held by the Wayside. 900,000 of that specifically to match this application, and so yeah, no, this is an actual state grant that's matching it. Any further questions? Not, thank you. Roll call, please, on the adoption of Resolution 210306.
Councilmember Reader.
Yes.
Councilmember Topgach.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Then moving on, the city manager's report. Glenn's on vacation. Chip is here. You have anything to report?
Well, it should come to no shock that every time I take over an acting role, we either get a blizzard or a flood. So there is a storm warning for tomorrow and into Wednesday. So purely just a coincidence. And then just one other thing I'd like to add. I too got the email regarding the upcoming fox sampling harvest. And they are going to be doing some harvesting at night, and they're going to be using some thermal imaging equipment, and I think they're going to be using spotlights. So they've also asked in the period that they're going to be collecting to make sure that homeowners keep their pets secured and tied up. Other than that, nothing else to report.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Let's go easy on Chip. Chief of Police is here too. Go easy on him as well.
Jennifer, I just have a quick question, and I don't expect Chip to know the answer, but I do have a question about the port director's report or the minutes that we got. I noticed that they made a motion with a contingency of us setting aside $150,000 in a maintenance reserve account. And I'm fairly certain we've addressed this issue before and we've decided not to do that. So I'm curious why it's coming back to us as a contingency from them. So if somebody could explain that, that's not Chip. I don't know if anybody else understands why that's here or can help me understand that.
I believe Joy probably knows that answer. But I guess I seem to remember Glenn making reference that they hadn't actually included it in that budget amendment we just passed, but the port, it was expected that funding would be available at the closeout. Joy, are you still there?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Could
That is,
you clarify, please?
yes, I can tell you that this was the motion that was voted for in the meeting by the group. The idea was thinking that they needed to pass a modified tariff in order for two of the rate changes that they approved through you last year to go into effect for 21. Well, turns out that those were already authorized to go into effect. So since there was no need to run this through the council. This motion didn't come to you as a formal motion with a resolution to adopt the tariff, or an ordinance, I'm sorry, to adopt the tariff. But I do know that there have been discussions between the city manager and the Port Commission about how to affect starting to build that account. And I think that the intent was to hopefully see that at the end of the F-21 season as a surplus to get that account started. As I think we should, well, yeah, what do I know? Anyway, I don't want to cloud things by putting my opinion in there. I think right now the idea is to look and see what happens with F-21, whether we have a surplus. Since we have been able to, we have this funds to pay the city back totally right now. We would have no further debt with the general fund. But considering the general fund and the city council just guaranteed some upfront money for a grant, if we get that project, that will be in a different situation. So Glenn is still trying to find a way to get there to start that maintenance reserve account for the commission. It has not been, we haven't done that yet. Hasn't been finalized. Is that the right answer?
I guess we're in budget discussions or budget calendar now, so that'll come back up here. I'd assume at some point in the next month or two.
Yes, I think the idea is to have a reserve account, sort of like the fund balance accounts, where it's outside the budget stream, but it's money that's drawn on as it builds for maintenance for the infrastructure at the port. So, but like I said, I do not believe, he and I, Nikki, discussed it. I haven't heard anything else. I don't know if that account has been established or if we are still mulling around the best way to do it and waiting to see how F-21 turns out.
Okay, thank you, Joy. Councilmember, does that kind of, sort of, maybe not even answer your question?
I think it's as close as we're going to get until Mr. Steckman returns.
All right. Thank you. Then are there any further questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to citizens' comments. Again, nobody new in the audience, and I don't see anybody waving their hands wildly. And Bryant read the email that we received in the first round. So we'll move on then to council member comments.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes, I just want to ask when we are planning the work session to discuss the changes in the voting ordinance. I'd like to have that happen sooner than later. Within the next week or two would be great.
Thank you. We'll go around the room here before we get to scheduling. Was there anything else, Gerald?
No, I think that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
No, I don't have anything.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
So under just a little bit of discussion we had, it was discussed that there are further upgrades to the system here to allow for better audio for the most part for things. So I did hear a few comments about that previously, so I'm glad to hear that that is still something that's in the works. And I agree with Gerald that to be able to put this on the table regarding the candidate running, and that we try to do that so that we can have it available for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mark Johnson, Councilmember Martinson.
I have nothing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Reader.
I had the same question about the work session, and I wanted to say I sure enjoyed seeing all the Winterfest posts. I love seeing everybody getting outside and enjoying the weather that finally cleared up for you guys. And I hope to see something like that in the future. And I was jealous I missed the fireworks.
Councilmember Topcock.
Yeah, I'll just echo again about the work session. I know we're pushing it close to this year's elections, and it always makes me a little bit anxious. I do this with my tribes all the time where I'm like, we can't change the election ordinance close to the actual election. So I'd love to see this keep moving forward, but always happy for public input. So don't mind seeing that happen in a work session. I also just wanted to thank staff for putting that together on the election stuff. I know that's been a discussion for a while now, and so I just was really appreciative of seeing it on the agenda tonight, even if it got pulled. Also, for the EPUB lesson this week, Kiksik Shro Tekaktalu, Pikpakutalu, Asian American Noon. So that translates to let's show respect and love to the Asian American community. I don't know if other folks saw, but I was deeply disturbed by the shootings that happened in Atlanta, as well as Boulder recently. So sending out thoughts and prayers to everybody there. And I emailed Glenn and then realized he was out, but I was hoping that maybe we could do a resolution just supporting our Asian American community, and just kind of in recognition of everything that's happening across the US right now. But I can sidebar with Bryant or Glenn when he gets back about that, because I do think it's important to show solidarity. And yeah, really enjoyed Winterfest. Got out and helped do a snow sculpture for the first time. It was a lot of fun. It was great to see folks coming down and all the really awesome sculptures and other events that were going on. So just grateful for that. And then we're having longer days and it's springtime. So Koyana, I think that's all I've got.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mayor.
Okay, that runs us around the table then. Thank you. Moving on to
Sorry to interrupt. Zoe's on the line as well. And I know she had some comments to make tonight.
Oh, it's snuck in there. I'm sorry, Youth Representative Okalisic.
Hi. Yeah, so last week I was riding around with my sisters and we noticed this woman was on Front Street and she needed help, and there was about 3 police officers there, none of which were wearing a mask. And this concerns me, as police officers are supposed to help protect us and they are failing to do so if they are not wearing a mask to protect us from the coronavirus. I understand that people are starting to get vaccinated, but even if you are vaccinated, you are still at risk for carrying the virus and are able to pass it on to people. I'd like to remind everyone that we wear masks not only to protect other people, but to show that we care about the well-being of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on then to Mayor's report. I have a reappointment of Gay Sheffield that I'd like to have your concurrence on. Gail served 1 term in seat F, has done a great job, is a good resource, and I think she'll do a great job to continue. So ask for a motion to concur with the appointment of Gay Sheffield to Port Commission seat F.
I move to approve the appointment of Gay Sheffield to seat F on the Port Commission.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Reader, Councilmember Martinson. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Topcock.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Doug Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinson.
Yes.
Councilmember Reader.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The other thing that I was going to talk about a little bit tonight was on citizens' comments and how we might want to address that in the future. But being we have a work session coming up, that would be appropriate to tag on to that. Looking at calendars, this is a time where the first of the month fell real early, so we get a little bit longer of a break between meetings. The next meeting is not before April 12th. If we were looking at Mondays for a work session, that would put us on the 29th or the 5th. And we could conceivably have another day during the week too. But what do calendars look like and a preference for either the 29th or the 5th?
29th is a holiday, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, 29th is a holiday, okay. Let's set the 5th then. Does anybody have a problem with the 5th? Does anybody object to the 5th?
What, sorry, what time on the 5th?
Well, we didn't get to that, but I guess is 6 too early and have a sandwich?
So I'll be there either way. I was just really excited. I'm in the subarctic gardening class with Cheryl, and I think our first class is on the 5th at 6 o'clock.
Oh,
but
shucks.
either way, I'll make it work. It's totally fine.
Okay, well, do we want to go earlier, or does 7 actually work in your schedule then?
I think the class goes from 6 to 8.
Okay, so it's whether you miss the first part or the second part then.
Right.
All right, if we could stick with 6 on April 5th, that seems no head shaking that doesn't work, although 75% of you don't, or 80 or something aren't on the camera. So I'll assume you're shaking your head, yes, that will work for you. And Mr. Clerk, would you get that notice out, please?
Okay.
All right, no executive session on the agenda this evening. Is there any last minute thoughts, or are we ready to adjourn? All right, we're gonna make it before 8 o'clock. It's 7:59.
7:59.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Hey.
Right.
I was gonna tell you, we got a new police officer.
There we go.
Yeah.